In our world today, we get these conflicting things. Some women act like we've been subjugated by men and have been put in this weakened position and we have to claim this power. But we've always had it, and we also already kind of know it. Like, have you ever heard that woman had that guy totally wrapped around her finger?
Welcome back to the Fascinating Womanhood channel. I am Cherry Lynn, and I am here with Dixie, Andelin, Forsyth. Hi, Dixie.
Hi.
We are here today to talk about the meaning of feminine power. One of the things we've noticed is that when you look this up or you try to research this subject, it's pretty vague, the information that you find out there about what the meaning of feminine power is. Some of the things that we have found ourselves is a lot of information relating to a woman being more attractive. What does that mean, feminine power?
First of all, let's say feminine power is contrasted to masculine power, because there's both. And they have different ways of presenting themselves. And it's not that one sex can't borrow from the other's power, but we're talking about how we wear it the best, what our core strength is. If you're a woman practicing feminine power for good, I might add, because if you practice it for bad, you can, but it won't end well. And practicing masculine power for good or bad too. So let's just assume here it's for good. But masculine power relies more on brute strength, like in the military, or persuasion, like selling, and also authority, or things like that. They have a lower voice in general than we do. And feminine power derives its greatest strength, such as your influence, for example, as a mother can trickle down through generations. Whereas your job, even if you're the head of a big company, nobody's really going to remember you 100 years from now. It won't really matter. And influences what it does is inspires people to want to change. And when people want to change, it lasts longer. And it's because of these unique abilities that women have. In our world today, we get these conflicting things. Some women act like we've been subjugated by men and have been put in this weakened position and we have to claim this power. But we've always had it, and we also already kind of know it. Like, have you ever heard that woman had that guy totally wrapped around her finger? That's a type of feminine influence and power. It doesn't imply she's weak. We blame women for the breakup of a marriage. That woman stole her husband from her. How did she have the power to do that? Now, that was obviously used not in the best way, but it's an example of women can have incredible power, and do at times, but we fail to understand it and how to use it for good in the best way possible.
We want to focus on 3 main points with feminine power today. Is that right?
Yeah, there's about 10 or more, but let's just go with 3.
So starting with number 1.
Number 1, our capacity to love. The reason I put that number 1 is because love is greater than hate and greater than anger when we use it properly. And by using it, I don't mean manipulate, because love is not a manipulatable thing if it's real love. Real love is sacrificing and things like that. Love is what we give to our families. Unconditional love. It promotes reaching out and communicating with people instead of fighting with people. It's led by example. It helps us to find new ways to improve our relationships. And that's also real power. And when you really love somebody, they can accomplish so much more than they could have if you did not. Because your belief in somebody, particularly over time, can have a huge influence on people. And not just your immediate family, your friends, your community. You want to be the person that other people think of as somebody who was a great influence on their life. Love is a huge force. There is a group of women that I read about in the Middle East called Women Wage Peace. These women are, I think, Israeli and Palestinian primarily, but they have a worldwide organization now. At the same time, the women, I think it was a couple of years ago in the United States, had some big women's march in Washington, D.C., where women were very angry and yelling and carrying signs. These women in the Middle East who actually have had their husbands and sons and fathers killed in these clashes in the Middle East decided, we are tired of our men getting killed and our people getting killed. And so these women who some were Palestinian, some were Israeli, who supposedly are enemies, thought in order for this to end, we are going to get together and we're going to form a group and we're going to demonstrate until these men decide to have peace because we want the killing to end. And so what these women did is they got together. They all wear white when they march, and they march arms around each other, hand in hand. They hug each other. They sing songs, and they have formed a friendship in spite of the fact that some of their husbands have killed some of the other women's husbands, and so forth. It's like our children and civilization is more important than this, and we are not going to stop until the hate stops. And that is love in action, and love for their children, love for their families, and love for their countries, their God, whatever. And this kind of thing is a thing that can move mountains. Now, it's not overnight, but it is powerful. And that's what we have as women inside of us that for a lot of us is dormant. Number two, another very powerful concept is understanding men. We wouldn't have so many problems in the feminist movement if we actually learned to understand men. We still need to be protected and things like that. We need to have the right to vote and all these basic things. But when we understand men, because we all have men in our lives, most of us do, whether it's coworkers, family members, or whatever. And when you understand a man, it draws him closer to you so that he trusts you more. And as we try to understand a man, we grow together as a true power couple and bring our differences as a man and a woman together to make something truly great. When you study this and you learn about understanding men, you will feel so much freer because you won't be frustrated all the time. And by the way, this applies to children, especially teenage boys.
And understanding men, do you think a lot of that has to do with being a little bit of a detective about their past? Like, how would you begin that step towards understanding?
Listening to someone, asking questions, not like probing questions, like you're an investigator for a tabloid. We're talking about somebody who's truly interested in that person and reflecting back their feelings, individual person and who they are and what they're interested in, and validate things that they love.
I love what you're saying about if you want to get started with that, it's really about listening. I think that's a really great piece of advice for
truly listening and being interested in him, in this guy. Who is he? What are his passions? What are his pursuits? What are his dreams? And because everybody out there, and this is men and women, everybody you meet, I think almost without exception, it never gets validated enough.
Right.
You don't ever feel validated. And so it's free. And and particularly men don't get validated by each other much. And as you validate your man, let's talk about your man, because that's the most important person, and your interest in him, and you notice little things he does, and don't think anything is too small as long as it's sincere, that you notice what he does and like, you did a really good job at that. I'm impressed. Even things like just small things that he might do, like if he sweeps out the garage and does a really good job, you not only thank him, say, you did a really good job. I'm really impressed. Small things all the way to the big ones, and believing in him. I know you can do it. Mm-hmm. And truly believing in him. That's what makes you irresistible. One of the things I put as an example in my book is an old Aesop's fable, which is called The Sun and the Wind. And it's a simple story of the sun and the wind were disputing who was the strongest. They saw a traveler walking along the road, and the sun said, whichever one of us can get that traveler, I think it was a man, to take off his coat first has the greatest strength. So the wind went first, and he blew and blew and blew, and the traveler just wrapped his coat tighter against him from the wind. And then the wind gave up, and it was the sun's turn. The sun came out, shone brightly on the traveler, and the traveler got warm enough, he just took his jacket off and went on his way. And it wasn't difficult. And that's the whole point of that. And that's what we compare to feminine power.
Feminine power is the sun.
Is the sun.
In that scenario, yes.
It's like the sun. Its gentle rays encouraged the man to take his coat off, and he did it on his own. He didn't say the sun forced me to do this. The third one we're going to talk about that I alluded to is charm. And charm, everybody loves to be around a charming person.
What is charm? I think a lot of people have a different definition of what that means.
Okay, the definition I found was the power or quality of giving delight or arousing admiration. It's when someone is interested in you. If you've ever been around a very charming person, they're interested in you and what you say, just like I was talking about this understanding men. And you do it, a charming person will be they're just charming with everyone.
I think a lot of people misunderstand that term, and especially as the years have evolved and we don't use it quite as much. I don't hear that word as much as I used to, and you probably heard it more.
Yeah, but it's got a lot of cobwebs on it now because nobody really uses it. And it's a charming person is interested in you. That's why we like it.
A lot of people hear charm and they immediately go to attractive, especially when it comes to a woman and using that word with a woman. They think, oh, she's so charming. A lot of people think, oh, that means she's attractive, or like there's something about her personality that's attractive.
That's annoying. I looked up charming women, and the only women I got were attractive or sexy. But for men, I got charming men like Will Smith. And Denzel Washington popped up, and I thought, okay, those are charming men. Where's the charming women? No one popped up, and I'm not sure why that is, but it's kind of sad. We need to bring it back because women, a charming woman and a charming man, but a charming woman has a unique, irresistible quality to her. We don't have enough of it, and you can develop this quality. It's one of our core strengths, ladies. You can develop this and be a charming woman, and that means you're not going to be sarcastic or snarky or any of those are not charming. And cussing, not charming. Charm has its own magic, and it's like a magnet. People are drawn to a charming person because, like I said, none of us get validated enough. And it's something you can do. And it doesn't cost anything. The world is, as we know, a lot of problems. And we can do something about it in a way that plays to our strengths. Feminine power. That's what we need.
Yeah, this has been really helpful. I love the three categories that you're talking about. I think they're very, very powerful. And there's so much more to this subject. Definitely anyone out there that hasn't read Dixie's book, Fascinating Womanhood for the Timeless Woman, you definitely need to pick up a copy. I will attach a link below so you can find where we are selling that book, as well as the workbook that goes along with it. And we have several other books as well that you can look at. They'll all be attached below, as well as where you can find us on social media. And we're here every week, so definitely check back with us next week. We will see you next time.
See you next time.